Hello. Now we are going to discuss about the function attribute. So this function attribute is a callable attributes, right? Consider this class over here. We have created a class called persons. Here we are defining a function inside a class. It simply says hello. Let's run this. Now when we say person.say hello, it will says that it is a function. So it is a type of function. When we check that type, it will result you it is a function. Now we can call this function simply by calling person.sayHello as a simple function, right? We'll say hello. Now let's create the instance of this class. So here we are creating the instance of the class P. We can check the ID of P is this. So this is what our ID of P is. Now we know that we can access the attribute or class attribute via the object. So this say hello also behaves as a class attribute as well. So we can say p.sayHello. Now when we say p.sayHello, what it is? So can you see this? Like here, when we say person.sayHello, it was a function. When we say p.sayHello, it is a method. It says that it's a bound method, right? Which is available in person.sayHello, and it also gives you the object. So this object and this object is same we are saying. So what it is? It's a bound method, right? For p object. So it is a method for specific object. Right? When we check type of p.sayHello, it says that it is a method. So the type has changed. Earlier, when we access through the class, it is a function, but when we access through the specific object, it is a bound method, right? And here we can also check the memory address also bound. So this method has bound to the memory address. So what if we try this? So here we are trying p.sayHello, just like we are calling the attribute, we are calling the function through the object, right? When we do this, we are getting a type error. It says that it takes 0 positional argument, but 1 was given. Here we have not passed any argument, but it still says that we have given 1 argument. So what happens over here? So method is actually a Python, right? So method is actually a function itself, right? But it is bound to the specific object, and that's the reason we call this as a method. So method is nothing but a bound function to the specific object. So when we define a function in the class and call them from the instance or the object, we need to know which specific instance was used to call the function. Again, this has a specific kind of reason. We can access the all the attributes of that object as well, all the attributes of that instance as well, right? And so this function needs to know which specific instance it is calling this so that it can interact with the instance variables. And to do that, Python automatically transformed the ordinary function. This was the ordinary function, right? And automatically transformed into a method, right? So when a function has been called via the attributes, sorry, when the function has been called via the instance, that function behave as a method now, right? And method is always bind to the instance, right? Meaning the instance will pass as an first argument to the function being called. When we call the function, the first argument, it always pass the instance, right? Let's see that in action. Here we have this class person. We are defining the say hello, but now we are passing the argument. So this can take as many number of argument as can, right? And it prints say hello. And what were the arguments we have passed? It will print the argument. Let's run this. When we call person dot say hello, here we see that we are not passing any argument, right? Here we are not passing any argument and behave like a simple functions, right? But let's see when we call the same function via the object, right? So here we have created the object. We can check the ID of this. We can call, now we are calling the same function via the object. When we call it, what it says the say hello args, and it has, here we have not passed any argument, but it has automatically passed, this method automatically took this object as a first argument, and that's the reason we are seeing this. And here you can also check this address and this address both are same, so it has automatically passed the, it has automatically called the p argument as a first argument, right? It has automatically called the p object as a first argument, right? And now the advantages is you can now access the p object attribute very easily, right? So here let's see the another class. Here we are getting class person. Now we have this another method called, another function called set name. Now it takes two argument, instance object and the new name. So this would be the object and this would be the what new name you want to pass. And here we're saying that instead object dot name equal to new name. This means that whatever the object, with whatever the object you will call, that object will be passed itself over here, and the new name you have to pass. And then we are getting the name attribute for that object as whatever the new name you will give. Let's see that. Here we are getting the p as an object. Now we are calling p dot set name Alex. We are not giving two argument here. This function takes two argument, but here we are not passing two argument because we know that p would be the first argument in the set function. So ultimately we are saying p dot name is Alex over here. So this will help you to create a new object, to create a new attribute. Here let's see that p dot dict. Now we have the new attribute, name as an Alex, right? And this you can also, now when you can also call this set name as an usual function. With when we do this, when we run this via the class, when we assign person dot set name, now because we are calling the set name function via the class, so this behave like a usual function. Here we are passing the object as p, and now we are saying John. So p will be the instance object and John will be the new name over here. When we do this, we can check that now we have the p dot name as John. So now the name property has been changed to John, right? So by convention, the first argument is usually named self. As we can see that you can give any name over here. So you can give any name as a first argument, but by convention, it is usually called self. So people usually pass self as a first argument, right? Now, so but method are the objects which created by the Python when calling the class function from the instance. So what is a method? It's the object created by the Python automatically when you call any class function via the instance or via the object. Right? They have their own unique attribute. So here we have this. So we have this say hello, and now this time we are using self as an argument. It will say hello. Here we are getting the object. When we say p dot say hello, now say that it is a bound method, right? Of this. So this is the method, and it is related to, it is bound to this object. And now here what we're saying is we are assigning the same method to the mHello. We can check the type as a method. Now it has their own attribute as well. We can check mHello.function. So when we, now here we are checking the type of this object, right? So this attribute of this object. So this object had attribute called func. When we do this, we can see that it is a same function, right? It is a function which takes the self argument. So method is just the wrapper around the same function, right? Now remember this method is bound to the instance, right? In this case, we got the method from the p object. So here we can check the type of id of p, and we can check the m dot self. When we check m dot self, so here mHello has a function and it also has the self attribute. When we check m dot self, it will say that this self is the same object. You can check the address of this object and the address of this object. So this method is totally bound to the object, right? So method, so think of the method as a function that has bound to the specific object, right? And the object is passed in the first argument to the function call. When we call the function, it is passed as a first argument, and then the remaining argument we pass after that. So instance method are created automatically for us, right? When we define function inside our class definitions, right? Here we do this, here we have created a function, right? This is the ID, we can check the function, right? Here we're calling the function. Now this is also true. Here we are calling, here we're getting the lambda functions, and this is attached to the class. So the function name is do work. When we do this, so this do work is also behave like a function now. Though it is a lambda function, but it is still the function. We can also create the, and we can also see this attribute with the object over here. We can see that. So do work is also the method. It is a lambda function, but it is a method. Now we can call this do work, right, as usual. But if we add a function to the instance directly, so remember here we are adding function to the class, but if you add a function to the instance directly, that is not a method. We have to be careful about that. Like over here we are adding other func as an attribute of the p object, right? And this is a lambda function, but remember here we are creating a new attribute, right, to the p object, and that attribute is a function, right? When you do this, when we check p dot others, now this is not a function. P dot other func is not a function, it is a usual function. We can check whether this other func is available in a person dictionary or not. It will not, because it is not bound to the class directly, right? We can call this other function over here, as simple as that, right? So long story short, function defined in a class are transformed into method when calling from the instance of the class, right? So this is what the method is, right? Thank you very much.